Welcome back to Playday number 4 of the finale. My name is Nautical, joined by Goose, and we've got another best of 3 on tap for you today. We've had some fantastic action thus far, but Goose, I've got a feeling that this one is going to be quite interesting just in terms of the TPL division and how both these teams sit in the standings. It's the Unks versus Turtle Tactics.
Am I this purple for you, or is it only on my screen?
Yeah, you look pretty purple, but you
Okay,
know
I
what?
okay, I
It's
guess
all
our
right. It's
producer
all right.
turned me. Dude, okay, I'm going through like all the Infinity Stones, but yeah, I'm excited for today. Both of these teams are 0 and something. The Unks are 0 and 2. Haven't even won a map so far. Turtle Tactics, they are 0 and 1, but they were able to take a map off Karn and Co. So a little bit better, but again, it's kind of like, pick your poison, what's worth losing or losing less worse. Again, it doesn't matter. One team today will get their very first win, and the other team that loses today, even if it takes 3 maps, will continue to go flawless in losing.
When you say flawless and then pair it with losing, that's just completely contradictory. It just sounds completely backwards. But yeah, you're right. Both of these teams are still looking for their first series win, and we'll start by talking about the Unks. Like you said, they lost to Carnico, but they also lost to the Jinxie Loyals, two teams that are currently at the top of the TPL division in first and second place. You've got Engage, Dead, Ions, Bless, and Zolaris. Dead, of course, sitting there flexing, but he has not been flexing his muscles in the server thus far, as both him and Ions, I think, are two players that have not really stepped up thus far for this roster.
Yeah, and Ions looks just like really, I don't know, he looks really sad about something. But maybe it's for his performance, maybe it's that he hasn't won a map so far. It's fun and games. It is really surprising, honestly, for both of these rosters that they have not had the success that they haven't recently, especially Turtle Tactics making a big change, removing, or I guess you could say Nick's choosing to leave the roster, picking up Millie, even having to sub him out for Zers just last game. So this is a roster that, sure, they are 0-1. They've only won one map so far, but they have been going through a lot of changes, even having to go through a sub. But for a team like the Unks, you can't really give them as much of the benefit of the doubt. And it is honestly just simply surprising to me, especially with the context Challenger Series performance.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a prove it game for multiple different reasons for both of these teams, but we got to get through our map vetoes. Like we said, this is a best of 3, and well, we don't have a lot to go off of for either of these teams thus far, so we'll start things off with Consulate, a map that Turtle Tactics have actually played in the finale, and they actually lost it 7-4 to
Oh.
Carnico in their first game of the day. And then Nighthaven Labs and Bank will be the other two maps. Nighthaven Labs a very fun map that a lot of teams like to play on, but we haven't seen either of these teams play on it thus far. They have seemed keen to play on it. Neither team has actually, been one of the early bans for them in their map
Yep.
vetoes. And then Bank, of course, is kind of hit or miss. It's not a great map, I would think, for both these teams, but I think it'll be very interesting if we get there.
Yeah, and I think honestly this first map of Consulate is really interesting to me personally because the Unks throughout their first 2 best of 3 so far in the finale, they have banned it out very early on. So not only them going to this map, as it essentially has been a permaban for them so far, they played it a little bit in Challenger Series a couple of months ago, but seeing that Turtle Tactics not only lost it 4-7, that's still relatively a consistent game for Turtle Tactics, but it's a map where they realized a lot of problems that they at least think is a good enough reason to pull this out of their bag, remove it from their permaban list, and try and potentially counter what the Turtle Tactics have done so far.
It's going to be very interesting to see here. Like you said, this is the map pick of the Unks, but Turtle Tactics have experience on it, and I'm very interested to see if the Unks went back and reviewed that game against Carnico at all, just to see. There were some good things that they did, but I was doing replays for that game, and one thing that I kept noticing during that game was that Turtle Tactics did a really, I don't want to say poor job, but subpar job of being patient. Carnico were very slow with their attacks, and when Turtle Tactics were on the defense, they got a little bit overzealous. Now, it is worth noting that Mint even admitted on that stream, playing with the sub of Zers, that they were almost playing it like a pug stack. So now I'm very interested to see how Turtle Tactics change up their strategies now that Trevmac is back in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, and this is honestly, obviously, a very important game for both teams, but more importantly for the Unks. Not only because if they lose this today, they go 0-3 and honestly are in a really bad position going forward, especially in the group they are. I can't really say that there's a group of death per se, but a group with like Jinxie Loyals, Karn&Co, more than likely gonna have to fight between Turtle Tactics that they're playing against today and Outlast Black. So not only is this a game where they have to kind of win it, both games they've lost today are probably to the two best teams, I guess you could say, in this bracket or group per se. So it's not that bad, but if they lose this, I don't want to say it's all down to the dumps, but it is in a very bad situation. And for Turtle Tactics, you go down 0-2, you still have many opportunities. But again, I think this is a overall opportunity for Turtle Tactics to really just kind of drive that dagger deeper and deeper to the heart of the Unk's chances to make a play in or maybe even a playoff.
Yeah, shifting gears to the map or not map bans, excuse me, operator bans. Turtle Tactics starting off with the Dokkaebi ban is quite interesting because every map of their series against Karn& Co, they banned Deimos. They absolutely hate that operator. So I'm a bit confused, or not confused, but I'm a bit curious what their plan is gonna be leaving Deimos on the board. The Unks like to ban Blitz, and they also like to ban Valkyrie, so I would not be surprised to see that come out here. And there it is, Valkyrie off the board. That's a lot of
Uh,
information denied for the defense. Still going to have a lot of options, of course. There are things like the Echo on the board. You've got Meister that you can play off of, bulletproof cameras, things like that. But Valkyrie is going to be that intel queen, no longer available here on Consulate. A map with a lot of open areas and a lot of vertical destruction where you could throw C4s up. So I would imagine that's going to be a very strong ban. And then, of course, the Mirror coming out as well. Pretty self explanatory, very, very powerful down in the basement and on the top floor sites specifically. So overall, all those bans make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, I think, overall Consulate is a very big map. You're going to want to take away those opportunities to potentially just take off information operators. I think that is a really important thing. And overall, I mean, both of these teams, a lot of the struggles have been just with simply not being able to understand their opponents. And not only do we see a Valkyrie ban, but we also saw a Dokkaebi ban. So both teams kind of leaning into that playstyle where they want to remove as much info from their opponents as possible. Not necessarily in a sense where you could say that it evens the playing ground out. But banning a Valkyrie versus a Dokkaebi are two completely different sides of the thing. But we're going to go to a quick break as we hopefully can get our players' mouses working. Don't go anywhere far. We'll be back shortly.
And welcome back to the start of our second game of the day here in the finale. It's the Unks versus Turtle Tactics. We are getting ready to load back into round number 1 of Consulate after a couple of moss issues prevented us from getting underway. And if you're just joining us, I'm Nomical, joined by Goose. Now, Goose, we were talking before the break about both of these teams have a lot to prove coming into this game. Both teams, of course, like we talked about, yet to find a series win. Both these teams still looking, well, Turtle Tactics have a point, but the Unks are still looking for that coveted first point, and both of them are really looking to try and keep themselves out of the basement of the TPL group, because right now the Unks sit in dead last, Turtle Tactics sit in third, and of course you want to make sure you get in that top 4 to qualify at minimum for the play-ins, and this series is a big step for both these teams to try and get to that point.
Yeah, it is also a really big game for the Unks, not only because they are 0-2 versus Turtle Tactics being 0-1, but this is a matchup that you honestly need to win. It's going to be relatively one of your easier opponents, especially with the Unks' first of their 2 games being to the number 1 and 2 seed, that being Jinxie Loyals and then Karn & Co. Probably 2 of the more difficult matchups so far. So you've gotten those out of the way. It's fine. You're going through growing pains. I understand. I do hold this roster up to a little bit more than what they've given me, simply because just we've been watching it for so long, and also they had such a great performance in Challenger Series. But Turtle Tactics also have been making a consistent comeback. They've made a lot of growth. They've been around for essentially, I'd say, 2, maybe 3 months. Didn't really show up in qualifiers for Challenger Series. Then after that, especially now that they've added Millie, a player that I've been watching for a while that I know has a lot of potential, especially being under the Mint system. This overall roster, if given time, I think could really go far. But again, it's just going to be about testing that simply on game days rather than just a, Mint scrim stream.
Yeah, going back to the Unks for a second, I think you're absolutely right. This Unks team looks like a shell of the team that finished top 4 in Challenger Series. They just seem to have some issues with coordination and team play going back to their previous series. There was a lot of moments where a lot of these players just were not living up to the fragging potential that they showed in Challenger Series. I talked about during the pre-show, Ions has had a bit of a struggle so far this event. So we really need to see a bigger performance out of a lot of these players. And they have a lot of fracking potential in this round. You've got the Nook. Bless has a lot of potential here to go for a bit of a lurk. You've got a couple DMRs with Engage and Zolaris. And then, of course, Dead on the Grim. I love Grim as an operator, and he's going to be very impactful here when it comes down to the execute portion of this round. And if you pair that with the Blackbeard, that can have a lot of potential to be a deadly duo.
Yeah, we talked about how not having that though could be especially for an overall roster that really likes their info on attack, bringing in those operators, even having Bless, not necessarily as an info operator, but an operator that can kind of just lurk around, clear their own space without having to have 2 to 3 drones or an additional entry player behind them, is just really good. Nothing over by that basement position below Teller, so Bless is going to be getting map control. That's been given to him, essentially. A majority of the focus or needed focus in this first half of the round is going to be over by offices in Coffin, but again, it's taken around half of the round. No real effort. You do have Bless coming up from behind, but you still have to push these players out. If there isn't something like this Blackbeard right in front of their face, there's nothing to really get them out of this control.
Yeah, 2 players still over on this admin side of the map, but the Blackbeard will force them back towards the site itself. That's a good clear with just over a minute to go, but Dami, the first one to claim a kill onto Zolaris, Dead with a quick trade right back, and the man count will stay even with just over a minute to go. Ions cannot quite hit his shots, and the Azami will be allowed to persist for a little bit longer. 1 Kiva barricade still in back pocket to potentially throw out and negate one of these different entryways. The time starts to tick lower. The Goyo incendiary canisters will start to rain down fire across the different entryways and delay even more time. The Unks have finally gotten themselves a good bit of map control over towards Spiral and the admin side of the map, but they do have a lot still to worry about, including this player down below. Trevmac cannot quite land his shots either. It's been a whiff fest through round number 1. Engage will be allowed to persist with just about 10 HP to his name. 30 seconds to go, and the Blackbeard needs to make the cross here as Dead looks to entry here through small office. Zonky will claim the Blackbeard, and now it's an equal man count. 2 big kills for Bless as he enters through vending machine, and now man advantage for the Unks to work with. 20 seconds to go. Trevmac down below. Spider all alone inside of CEO has to hold down this part of the map, otherwise it's going to be a round 1 attack for the Unks. Spider goes in with his first kill. Long range engagement Looking for the second one with the Scorpion. On the retake, TrevMac gets another one, and it's all going up. Turtle Tactics. Spider finds his second of the round, and they'll get that diffuser. Round number 1 to the defense.
Yeah, phenomenal first half from the Youngs. I really liked what they were doing with that roam, with Bless going up those spiral stairs to kind of be, additional back pressure force to kind of, catch that cross off. Didn't get that first kill. Eventually, you were able to push in and through that Blackbeard. But then once it came down to that execution phase of the round, once they got that bomb down, I was questioning TrevMac's position a little bit. I understood that he was trying to play spoilers with that impact to potentially get the kill from below, or at least distract that player trying to get the bomb down. But then a phenomenal 1v2 there from the Ella. And in my opinion, if that Ella did not perform, was not able to shut down those engagements, that round is over. It's still a little bit of a questionable position, but because Spider did perform in his position, it went well. And overall, a phenomenal retake from Turtle Tactics to win the very first round.
Well, apparently Spider wants to prove that he can shoot back not only with the Scorpion, but also with the Ella shotgun, as he'll switch weapons for round number 2. Probably going to help with a bit of sight setup here. You've got TrevMac as well bringing out his primary shotgun on the Solus of all operators. We don't really see a lot of Solus that much anymore, especially since the nerfs of about a year ago now. It's been quite a bit, and yeah, I mean, Solus has just kind of fallen off of a cliff. Zonky on the Warden as well. I like that pick just because there are a couple smoke grenades on the board, but other than that, you're really just playing Warden to probably bring out the C4, the shield in terms of utility. I do just in general think that this is going to be a very stock standard lineup. You're probably going to have a couple players playing up inside a CEO for the vertical control, and maybe over towards meeting just to hold down up above inside of like lounge. But other than that, everything looks about ordinary.
Yeah, I think this is one of the instances where Solus actually has some use, especially for just how big this map is. You don't really see a lot of attacking teams go for, one style of an attack, then completely switch it up. So using this Solus to potentially get a lot of info, just seeing where those drones are, understanding where the push is coming from, and because it's such a big map, you're not going to see such a huge change on the positioning of the first initial attack, then TrevMac's overall info game will have a lot of early round usage if he's able to use it and pair it correctly.
Engage here with the Bravo, looking to find some value inside of the site right now, but nothing presenting itself, at least nothing obvious. So he'll just continue to traverse the map and look around. Looks like he'll be able to get away with that bulletproof camera. Not sure if anybody's around there to potentially shoot out that Brava drone. Doesn't look like it, so he'll get away scot-free with a bit of information, and he's still got 2 different shots left that he could fire off with that Kludge drone. Save those for a later part of the round. We're about halfway through right now and still remain in this 5 versus 5. Currently 4 players of Turtle Tactics up above, extended all the way as far as meeting and admin side of the map. They are making it very hard for the Unks to contest with this initial map control, but it'll actually be Zonky to get the first kill. Zolaris with a quick answer back. TrevMac cannot control the SMG-11. Like I said, whiff fest through these first couple of rounds, but we stay even in this 4v4.
Yeah, you can see yet another lurk from the Youngs. This time around, it's going to be Matt trying to find anything. And to be fair, the Youngs have no real useful map control. Still, a lot of control being held by Turtle Tactics on this vertical, on the top floor. And they know that they need to clear, but Matt just solo lurking, especially with an Ella shotgun behind Spider just waiting for him, in my opinion, really isn't the answer. But the Youngs, they don't really have a whole lot, and they need something. And Matt could be that something.
Yeah, Bless is low here, so he's going to have to be very careful with how he deploys his utility. He's going to be very crucial with 40 seconds to go. Zolaris looking over towards meeting, trying to find engagement with the player up above. I believe that's Millie. Dead will join him on the rappel, but he will trade with Dami. Here comes the swing. The Ella shotgun's too strong in that situation, and Engage will eat the dirt in this round. 20 seconds to go now. Man advantage for Turtle Tactics as Bless is just going to try and walk right in. There's a player inside of Piano Connector, but he has no idea that he's there, just sitting by the window, looking for the engagement. Nothing coming of it just yet. Time ticking low. You have to move. You have to get this plant down. Here comes the swing, and the Bailiff will work, but now it's all left up to the Grim in the 1v2. No diffuser in hand. 3 seconds left, and that's going to be all she wrote for round number 2. Turtle Tactics play the time to perfection through 2 rounds, and they will get the 2-0 lead.
This Unks roster is looking disfigured, to say it in a nice way. And I love these guys. I've been watching them for about 2 to 3 years now, and they are really struggling. Even with 6 drones in their pocket, they weren't able to use that info consistently. You find just simple players hiding in honestly simple positions. I talked about how Matt was trying to go for that lurk up yellow stairs to try and apply some back pressure while the rest of his team pushed over by meeting side. But if they just had one drone or honestly any info, especially not having that Dokkaebi call there, not revealing that player being spidered in the corner, and just a simple kill. It's those simple 1v1 engagements they're getting themselves into because they don't have info, whether it be Turtle Tactics denying it or the Unks not giving themselves enough info to work with. So far, it has been consistently punishing them, and they haven't really been in a consistent and comfortable position to win any of these rounds.
Yeah, when you think of the Unks, when you think of these players, you generally think of them as being a fast team, and like you were saying, they've definitely had some issues with the clock through these first couple of rounds. And I have to wonder, is it just the fact that they're maybe not as comfortable playing with each other as they were back in Challenger Series? Because I was talking with, I believe it was Engage on Twitter a couple days ago, after they lost to Jinxie Loyals, and he was telling me that they hadn't scrimmed in over a month coming into the finale. So I just wonder if maybe it's the fact that they've gotten a little bit unfamiliar with each other's play styles. Maybe the coordination just got a little bit lackluster for lack of experience and reps, practice, you know, that kind of thing. So maybe it'll start to improve again as we get deeper and deeper into the finale. But I just have to wonder, will it be too late as they're already down 0-2 and we haven't really seen any signs of improvement yet?
Yeah, bringing in the Deimos and the Jackal, I think, in my opinion, is really simply the solution for the problem that they've been dealing with. Again, it just comes down to how they use these operators. Both rounds, they've been dying to players and honestly positions that have been held by the extension that's been set up by Troll Tactics. They were not prepared for because they didn't have enough info. You can already see Millie completely solo roaming. His teammate will eventually come up, that being Trevmac. But because they move just a little bit slow, the Unks weren't able to catch off essentially two isolated players, but a phenomenal read in this early round from Turtle Tactics to not overplay their hand and give an easy entry pick for the Unks.
Yeah, I love this so far from Turtle Tactics. You have 3 players out on the roam, you put a little bit of pressure, a little bit of fear into the Unks, and then without giving away any bodies and with wasting almost half the round, you fall right back down to the bottom floor. And you can join Spider and Zonky, who are down there just holding down the fort in case something crazy happened from the Unks. But as of this point, everybody is safely back down on the bottom floor, situated with C4s ready to roll. You've got 3 of them still available. You've also got the goo mines for a little bit of extra delay, and the toxic babes. So there is plenty of utility still available for Turtle Tactics with just over a minute to go.
Yeah, these frost mines are just going to really slow down getting not only that hatch open, but even essentially this wall. Zalora is almost losing his life to that C4 below. And sure, the Unks do have a minute on the clock to work with, but there's still so much work to do, so many chores to take care of, and mom and dad, they're almost home.
Yeah, Blackbeard being the first one to fall there is definitely not an ideal situation, as Millie will pick up his first kill of this series. Now in a man disadvantage with Zolaris also on low HP, you find yourselves in a very precarious spot, especially with the diffuser being dropped at the bottom of Spiral Stairs and Millie holding court over the spot. He'll go for the swing, pick up his second kill, and now Dami will join him on the stairs. The M590 can't get it done, but Millie sure can. Picks up his third kill, and now Bless is all alone. Will pick up one exit frag. But I have to fear, with the time being this low, is it going to be too little, too late, especially with another player, Millie, still holding court on the spiral staircase, and now with the goo mine in his foot, Bless is surely not long for this world. As the player swings out from pillar here in just a moment, it'll actually be the security player to get the job done, and Spider will close that one out. It's a 3-0 lead for the boys on Turtle Tactics.
Tough scene, tough round to watch overall if you're an Unks fan. And again, it's a situation where they're continuously putting themselves in isolated positions that they don't necessarily need to do, and making, honestly, the grave mistake that so many teams make with Blackbeard is just allowing for him to be isolated while trying to clear a crucial position. As soon as he pushed down that spiral stairs position, not only was there a smoke right in front of him, but he was able to be isolated. And that's a lot of mistake that a lot of teams make. They don't understand that a lot of the time it is just simply better to have an additional player, any kind of support behind that Blackbeard, but allowing him to be isolated in a 1v1 situation just led to not only an easy entry for Turtle Tactics, but that spearhead was gone. There was no other point of the map that the Unks had an easy entry point into the bomb site or even near the bomb site. And as soon as that Blackbeard fell, and then you shoved 2 players and just kind of funneled down the spiral stairs, kind of lost the round right there.
We go back to the top floor for round number 4. Spider back on the Ella. He's had a lot of success here. He's actually yet to die playing on this Ella through these first 3 rounds. TrevMac will actually bring out the Pulse. I'm very excited about this lineup here for Turtle Tactics. There's a lot of potential here. You got a couple of C4s available, a lot of information as well. We talked about the fact that the Valkyrie and the Dokui bands will take away a lot of information from both sides, but that Pulse is going to be a great substitute. He can call out to his team for the full admin clear, and then you have multiple shotguns available to make quick work of these Unks players. I fear that this round might just go the exact same way as the first 3.
Yeah, I mean, again, bringing a lot more execution utility and putting in that sends with Solaris. Every round, the Unks are making adaptations, trying to fix the problems of the round last, but they're not able to get everything down when it comes down to executing. They have the perfect tools for the job at hand, but then they're not able to put that map to fruition. And yet again, sure, you know, it's early on in the round, the exact same problem they had last time. But if Ion just swings in here with just one nade covering him, the C4 could potentially take his life, but no. He's going to waste one nade, but actually bait out that other C4, be able to get into this point of the map, clear a little bit, and even allow Bless to set up a deep crossfire. But a phenomenal Azami charge being put up to allow Millie to just run across that point of map.
Yeah, the Unks have done a much better job of taking map control here. They are very close to being able to facilitate and execute, and I'm very curious what the comms are like right now. So let's have a listen in and see what the Unks are thinking about, especially now that the C4 has gone off.
Oh my god. One's close, bro. Might just walk here.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in. I'm going to jump in Spire, okay?
Yeah, I can hear
3,
this guy.
2, 1, jump in Spire.
One's bro
Wait,
here.
Can we try something like this with me? So be able to get across? I can't nade it. One, give me a bitch.
I killed
Nice.
Swift.
I have no.
There's one
We
bitch.
just have Visa flank him. That's all we
Okay.
got.
Okay, 50 seconds. Pulse below, pulse below.
Pulse can be stuck with the mute.
He's on Protoss. He's on Protoss. Kill this guy.
Dead.
I want your bitch.
It's gonna be. Their win con is
Yo,
below.
Visa stairs, Visa stairs.
Can we
Visa,
find him
Visa
on the
stairs.
table?
Visa
Yo,
stairs.
I
Visa.
know, bro. Yo, listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Can you get the
I can
glove and
plant.
plant?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a guy bitch. He might try to retake on me.
You just have to kill him,
50.
Matt.
75. 90. Went down.
That bitch.
Yo, just
I'm playing
sit
close,
tight.
I'm playing close.
I got first, bro.
Cam.
Nice.
Nice.
Good.
Good recovery. Please just fucking listen, guys.
Yes.
I had a cam down there and everything, and it would have caught that way before we even died.
Well, hold on then. Why did you ask?
Yeah, so I think we have the right idea here, Goose. It just seemed like the comms, they weren't really talking to each other. And that was something that Ions was expressing frustration about there, is that the fact that they're just, despite the fact that they won the round and there was a big C4 right as we threw into the listen, it just was a very messy round that I'm honestly kind of surprised that they were able to bring that back, because of the fact that it just seemed like I said, they really were not talking to each other that much about the coordination, and that's been a big problem with the Unks thus far, is that coordination has just not been on point, and I think that that's something that definitely needs to improve.
Yeah, and I think that just the simple issue of just not being able to use your info to the fullest capability. I talked about how one round they lost, they had 6 drones available and somehow just had no idea where certain players were. Going even into that round specifically, they talked about how they had a drone below, and if they just simply had somebody watching it, that first initial entry kill with the C4, actually 2 kills, would have never happened. And even going into execution, they had an amazing read onto what Turtle Tactics were doing, understanding that there was a lot of pressure down below. They're doing the exact same thing they did, even with Spider, even though he didn't have the impact in his pocket, and they were trying to play the only win condition from playing that vertical from below. So the Unks, again, they have the tools, they understand their own mistakes and what Turtle Tactics are doing, but when it comes down to the actual execution, it gets messy, whether it be comms or just not using the info to the fullest capability. It's something that is continuously just honestly cursing them.
Well, hopefully they can reset the mental here now that they've got themselves on the board. It only takes one that can really start to bring things back. And then you can just continue to steamroll the momentum back in your favor. As now we're into round number 5, about 40 seconds in, and already the pacing seems much better from the Unks here. They've gotten themselves established in the building. You've got Ions on the Blackbeard and Zolaris working his way in as well, taking over towards admin side. You've got players out on the repels, opening up walls with the ace. You've got Bless as well, making an entry. He could be very potent on that Deimos, especially pairing it up with the Blackbeard. They can use that as a great pinch. The question is now that they've gotten themselves established in the building, are they going to continue to press the momentum and continue to push the attack, or will we find them stalling out?
Yeah, I think that last round was really just a round where they were able to figure out their own problems, especially in that calming sense. A phenomenal pick from Dead, holding that cross all the way outside main lobby, and this allows for the Youngs to play with a lot more aggression because they have that man advantage, because they can take risks with having one player off of the board for Turtle Tactics. It's going to be able to give them that upper hand going to this execution onto the top floor.
Well, that was the first round where they'd gotten the opening pick, so I was excited to see what it would look like fighting from a man advantage situation if you were the Unks. But now that they found the answer, and it's back down to a 4v4, everybody from Turtle Tactics is just flooding back down into Piano to hold down the site for this last-minute execute. 4v4 now. Dead looks to open up the exhibition wall. That's going to be a main entry point into the site. You've got the Blackbeard, but it doesn't look like the Blackbeard is in a position to be able to take advantage of the fact that this wall is now open, as it's just Dead and Zolaris in this spot. Ions is still isolated up above with Engage supporting him from long range, so they're going to need to make sure that they can deal with this top floor pressure. Spider's in a great spot, but he's read beautifully by the Twitch. Wonderful kill there, and here comes another one. Dead walks his way into the site and is now going to start to put that diffuser down. Now in a 4v2, Turtle Tactics have to retake here. Coverage is good from Engage as they were trying to stop the diffuser. Dami will die, and now it's Millie left all alone on the top floor fighting with the Blackbeard. It is a disastrous situation, and Ions will let him know. Beautiful rounds from the Unks, and they find 2 in a row.
Phenomenal round, fixing the exact problems I talked about of just you have a win condition round after round, not even just the last round, but even previous rounds where the Youngs lost. They had very consistent positions to win the round, but they just didn't calm to each other. They weren't playing a fluid playstyle, kind of just isolating each other, making mistakes that didn't really benefit the old team. But every single decision, especially going to that execution, protecting Dead on that plan, making sure that there was a crossfire going all the way to bottom spiral, making sure that no player was holding a position, an angle that wasn't necessarily needed. And the main focus was simply getting that bomb down, even going to the Blackbeard, holding that vertical, not getting aggressive, not saying, okay, well, I've cleared this top, I can go downstairs, understanding that he needed to prevent a retake that eventually one of the Turtle Tactic players did do. And it's a phenomenal round that really goes to bat home the idea to me that the Unks finally understand what they need to do.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of improvement from the Unks here through these last couple of rounds. That last round in particular, they had a great multifaceted push. You had those 2 players up above. You had that push in to exhibition from the main lobby, and they were able to just put the pinch on those Turtle Tactics site defenders, and that just put even more pressure on the top floor. I love what I've seen from them out of the last 2 rounds, and I'm very excited to see not only in this last attacking round, but what this means going on to the defense, because if you could pick up this 3rd attacking round here on Consulate, one of the most defender-sided maps in our pool right now, that's going to be great news for them heading in to the later parts of this series if they can pick up this map in convincing fashion. Ion's back on the Blackbeard here. That's become a staple operator of him through this map. He's had mixed success. The last round in particular was probably one of his best so far through this first 6 rounds. We'll see if he can pick up a few more kills here and there and just continue to be that spearhead for his team. He's going to have to be careful, though, because there is that cap can on the board, and I do not believe that the Unks are currently aware of this. Trevmac on the lurk has likely set those traps up all throughout this server side of the map, and Ions is going to have to be very careful here and just check all of his doorways, otherwise he could be the first one to die.
I really love this mailbox position that Matt's playing. If he can just be patient and wait, he will be able not only catch off the player, but get that entry pick, which will give the momentum that the Unks need going into this execution, going from a basement, or I guess you could say security side over, rather than focusing on that main breach. With all that sound info, nobody applying any pressure onto the breach. They more than know that this push is coming from here, but Zonky, he's going to lose his life, and Ions with 2 now.
Quickly traded back there by Spider, Dead off the board, but Matt continues to keep it going. And now it's a 4v1. Trevmac, the cap can, the last one alive, He'll shoot the cap can, or not the cap can, he'll shoot the Blackbeard in the back, but the cap can will be the next one to die, as it's 3 in a row here from the Unks as they tie the game after looking absolutely abysmal through those first 3 rounds. They've suddenly woken up, and it seems as though they might have found the reminiscence of that Challenger Series form.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of people, whether you watch T2 or even T1 Siege, a lot of people think that problems for teams in game are a lot bigger than they really are in reality. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, the youngsters are washed. They don't know what to do. They don't have a good system." But no, they just weren't talking to each other. They weren't in a good headspace. It took 1 round for them to get a successful retake or regroup after losing those first 2 kills, and then consistently basing that off. It's just a simple fix as just listening to your teammates, being more aware of not only your surroundings but your decisions as an individual player in an execution. Perfect example there with Ions going huge, his team reading into the momentum that those kills set up and then going for that execute behind him, not allowing for the defense to get yet another isolated kill. And on their own map pick, they get a 3-3 half on a console attack. That is better than most.
Yeah, like you said, definitely better than most. Now they switch over to the defense. And now they get to be the ones that force the aggression and get to be the ones that keep Turtle Tactics out of the building here. Similar strategies being employed here by Turtle Tactics. You've got the Twitch coming out, you've got the Grim. The main difference thus far through this first round is going to be the fact that TrevMac is bringing out the Monty rather than what we saw with the Blackbeard in the first half. Different style of shield, but still a shield nonetheless, and that means it's going to be very powerful in that main spearhead operator for this attack. You have to wonder what the plan is going to be here for Turtle Tactics and where they're going to try to force their entry from. Likely going to be over towards admin side, at least initially, but there's a lot of stall potential available here for the Unks that could cause a lot of problems once they make their way through.
Yeah, honestly, looks like they're going to go for an office plant. Jump down that yellow stairs highlight. You obviously already have Spider setting up his Sense gadgets, and then just going to hit the 1, 2, 3 go button and go all at once. Not necessarily the 20-second meta, but just setting up for a quick execute, clearing a path for that Monty to make his way into the site and safely get that bomb down. But there is so much to do. So many variables, especially now that you eventually have Ions making his way up the spiral stairs. If just one player goes undroned, or if you can't push a player out of their power position on the defense, then essentially this entire execute is going to fall apart.
Tick-tock. Halfway through the round, everybody from Turtle Tactics still outside. They need to make a spearhead soon. They need to get themselves into the map because, you know, being the attack, I'm going to sound like Captain Obvious here, but you can't just sit outside. You're not going to win a round just sitting outside the building and not doing anything. And TrevMac will finally make his entrance into the building over at the top of yellow stairs. That'll force Dead to start using those toxic babes. The first 2 have already been expended. He's got 1 left, and he does have that M590 at the top of yellow stairs, which is going to be a deadly encounter for anybody on Turtle Tactics to come up against. The Monty spots the smoke, and that'll force the fallback, but the mute is still there as well. Also with the M590 in hand, dual M590s at the top of yellow stairs. This is going to be a nightmare scenario for Turtle Tactics to push through, but it'll actually be the SMG-11, the first gun to come alive for this round, as it'll be engaged, the first one to pick up a kill. Traded back quickly by the DMR of Zonky, but now another one comes in. Millie as well on the board. TrevMac finishes off the down players with the pistol and picks up a second one for good measure. And now it's Solaris and Bless in the 4v2 in a situation that I called unwinnable. I said that there was no chance they win against those 2 M590s. Well, they proved me wrong in a heartbeat. Now that Shield can look to start to facilitate this plant. He'll knock the castle down on his feet, and Zonky will clean things up for good measure. Turtle Tactics start things off with a strong attack.
Yeah, I mean, just really a perfect round where you can really say, or actually see, I think is a better word, the structure and consistency that Mint brings onto a roster like this. That is a round where I talked about how it was going to be a win factor of whether or not they got that execute off and whether or not they could have all their X's crossed off. And they not only had every single X crossed off, but they used that Monty as a spearhead perfectly. I talked about how the Unks had a little bit of difficulty isolating that Blackbeard. Monty, not as a sense, you can play him more as an isolated being. He's a lot more menacing, but because they had a player right behind him, that being the Twitch, not only were you able to apply additional pressure, but then when you had 2 players swinging on the Monty instead of a 2v1, you had essentially a rock and then a DMR turret right behind him, getting those 2 kills, eventually opened up the way into the bomb site. And again, if none of that went right, if they weren't able to kill and push the player outside a bathroom, that entire round would have fallen apart. But because they did almost everything perfectly, it went the way of Turtle Tactics.
Yeah, like you said, that Monty is such a problem to come up against. During the reload final today, I believe it was Chibisu in a 1v2 on map number 1 of Lair, and he was against a Monty, and the Monty just sat in the doorway and just watched the entire clock burn away because, or no, it was Shuri. Shuri could not just get through that doorway to get to the diffuser in the 1v2 because it's so hard to deal with him. Monty is such a strong operator to make a spearhead into a map. And even then, holding post plants as well. He's fantastic at that. There's so many different great options for the Monty. But this round, TrevMac will swap back onto the Blackbeard. And I believe that he's probably going to even be more potent on that Blackbeard because he's had himself a very nice map up to this point. He's 6 and 5, got a couple of assists to his name. So you really want to keep him with a gun in his hand and just keep him being that primary entry fragger, one of those top performers for Turtle Tactics.
Yeah, Turtle Tactics already switching up, or not Turtle Tactics, but the Unks already switching up their game plan. Instead of going upstairs to that top floor again, they're just going to go all the way down to basement. They're not going to give Turtle Tactics the opportunity to play the same bomb site twice. This allows for them to make a lot of adaptations that so far they have not been able to play against. You can see that this push is coming over by servers, and at least Ions is aware, but he's going to have to push back because he doesn't have any support. There's a shield and a player behind it. If he takes that engagement, the best case scenario is he gets traded. But now because he's fallen back, he's essentially given up that map control that isn't necessarily needed, especially with 1 minute and 30, essentially half the round off of the board. For the Turtle Tactics, they've done essentially enough spoiling. And what the hell is Bless doing?
Surviving, apparently, as he's managed to work his way back over towards Tellers. As of right now, he's just going to continue to sit here and waste time and actually pick up a kill for good measure. Takes down Millie, but quickly traded back by Spider with the pistol in hand. Dami as well will add to the kill total for this round. What? He's in sight? Dami's just in the middle of the bomb site. He's worked his way onto Pillar, and while he's being eaten away at his HP by the goo mine, he will actually be the next one to die as Dead picks him up, and then Engaged comes back with another one as well. So despite having all of that map control, now it's the Unks who find themselves with another man advantage situation to work with here on the defense, and a C4 will rain out. It'll down the Blackbeard, and now it's a 1 versus 2 for the Twitch. Spider, the last one alive, and he'll toss out a smoke, looking to go for the revive here onto TrevMac. He might be able to get away with this because of that coverage of the smoke. And indeed he will. Now back up into a 2v2. This just became so much more winnable for Turtle Tactics. TrevMac has that diffuser. He's got a shield as well, and the Blackbeard primary weapon. I have to fear for this situation, but Dead comes to life. Spider taken off the board, and now it's the formerly down Blackbeard. In a 1v2, he will get nothing as the Echo has a huge round, and Dead will make sure that the Unks continue to keep things close. Tie game.
Yeah, I mean, that's just overall very difficult position. I kind of liked what Bless was doing with that Vigil. He got a trade. Honestly, probably the best case scenario, especially in his position. He was not getting out alive. Not even without a trade. I don't think he was going to get out with 2 kills. So the fact that he was able to trade his life once he fell down was phenomenal. But then it came down to that execution. And because, one, you still didn't have that Vigil up, you went into the site. And honestly, without that multi-directional attack, you didn't have that single wall inside of Closet open. And it allowed for the defense to play very safe. I think it's very big that you just not only didn't get that one single wall, but you didn't have any back pressure, allowing for the Youngs to kind of just look in one direction, mow, hold angles, and set up crossfires. And it was a round that was very simple, but it was made simple due to the lack of consistent effort to really take any other point of the map from Turtle Tactics.
10 seconds left before insertion.
We've had a much closer game than it felt like it was going to be through those first couple of rounds. The Unks are keeping things level here, keeping things close with Turtle Tactics. On the defense now, I really want to see them start to run away with this. It'll build a lot more confidence if you can start to build some of these rounds back-to-back on the defensive side if you're the Unks, especially considering, like we talked about, this is a map that Turtle Tactics formerly lost to Carnico on back in their first game of the finale. You want to make sure that this is as convincing as possible heading into Nighthaven Labs, which, reminder, is the pick of Turtle Tactics. We're not quite there just yet. The Unks are back up on the top floor here. They've got multiple shotguns once again. Last round, I cursed them into an unfortunate situation. I would really like to see them have a bit more stall potential this round, and they have brought extra utility to make that come to fruition. They've brought the Tachanka out as a third time delaying option. You've got the smoke toxic babes, the Vulcan canisters on the Goyo, and the Tachanka. I mean, Goose, I don't see any situation where this does not come down to the last few seconds of the round.
Yeah, and the problem here is if you look at a lot of the execution utility on Turtle Tactics, that's what they want to do. They want to force this down to yet another late round execution, and just looking at the lack of map control, not being able to clear this office position, still having Bless holding this, kind of connector position in the map over by vending, it's going to come down to that 40 to 30 seconds. And then a lot of this utility that sure doesn't have any use now is going to turn into an absolute gold mine going into that execution, just denying so much time. The amount of fire Zoloris has, it just comes down to whether or not the Unks can read into the positioning and understand where the plant is trying to go down.
So we're halfway through thus far. Millie out on the glass, not somebody that you typically see taking the most forward position on the attacking lineup as they start to clear through this mid-floor. But alas, he is the one who's going to lead the charge for Turtle Tactics. The Blackbeard is right behind him. That's Dami following suit with the diffuser in his hand. As they look to quickly take their way through Spiral, you've got the Vinka as well taking in through admin side, and here comes the execute from Turtle Tactics. They're looking to go with a little bit of speed here, and the Blackbeard runs in towards vending. Do they have the coverage of the glass?
Oh,
they do
no.
not. Bless is able to shoot through the smoke and take Millie down. A C4 will delete most of Dami's HP as well, and suddenly this round looks very dire for Turtle Tactics. They had the control that they wanted. They had the pacing, but as of this moment, it looks as though they've got themselves caught in a rock and a hard place, as there's multiple players isolated and stuck over by vending on the top of Spiral Stairs with no way to get out. The fire will rain as well, and with 30 seconds left, these different defenders of the Unks are burning away at every opportunity that Turtle Tactics have. I mean, look at this. There's just nothing coming out. They're playing so slow, and this slowness has given an opportunity for Engage to go for a flank up Spiral Stairs. Does he spot the player to his left? It doesn't look like he does. This could be an absolute freebie if you just look down, Engage. No! Two quick trades right back. But on low time, they have to go for the plant. Solaris in a 1v2, make it a 1v1, and with the time expiring, the Deimos can do nothing but watch, wait, and just sit there in silence and suffering. As it'll be a masterclass of a 1v3 for Zolaris, and they will escape by the skin of their teeth. Unks take the lead.
Nomical. I talked about it in the very first attacking round for Turtle Tactics, that this structure, this system that Mint has set up is very eerie of a structured PL team, and that has its benefits and its downsides. And so far, we've seen consistent downsides. We've seen perfectly orchestrated attacks and executions from the Turtle Tactics. But if you just miss one or two small details, everything falls apart. Sure, a phenomenal play there from Zonky essentially put his team in a great place to win the round. But because you simply didn't clear out Zoloris, because you left just one X unchecked, the entire round fell apart. And that's going to continue round after round. If they can't really just attend to all these small details, then Turtle Tactics, they're going to just fall down to essentially one small player.
5 seconds left.
I mean, it's like I said, that round came down to the last couple of seconds thanks to all the stall utility, but even then, it was way too close for comfort for the Unks. Great 1v3 there by Zolaris, but really, with everything you had, it should not have come down to that point. Maybe a little bit of overswinging when it wasn't required. But nonetheless, that round is in the past. You cannot change what happened. All you can do is look ahead to the future. Round number 10 takes us back down to piano. And Dead looking to get aggressive. He'll get punished for it instantly by the Flores of Spider. Nice shot there and nice read to mute off the board. And that's going to be a big loss. Not the most important of losses, as most of the utility is going to be, lost there, as all of the mute jammers are still out on the map. You are losing that utility, you are losing that shotgun, and definitely don't want to be losing a player that early on in the round.
Yeah, and especially just how this attack is played by Turtle Tactics. Getting that entry pick is so crucial for just making that win factor in that late game even more comfortable. Because the Unks lost that entry pick, they have to play a little bit more sparingly. They don't have that even man count. They have to get a little bit more aggressive on positions that they necessarily didn't. This also allows for Turtle Tactics, especially with all of this utility, the Monty still on board to take a lot of map control. And now the Unks, with that player down, they're going to have to play with the idea if they want to try and give up this vertical or just simply play for their lives.
As the Ying Candela starts to rain in, it looks like an execute is shaping up. And let's take a listen to see what Turtle Tactics have going on.
I'm holding his.
Bathroom
I'm
in
holding
a row.
his
I got killed from below in piano.
You just stay alive here, just bait. Oh, honestly, can you just leave, Zonky? He's gonna kill the guy bathroom. Just hold the bathroom guy, Millie. Just hold the bathroom guy. Bathroom guy dead. Nice kill. Alright, listen, one was rug. You can work this rug guy.
Okay, I'm coming over to you.
Go yellow here and try to walk yellow side. Then Zonky, you just track the Mel.
We'll
Well,
just
one's
pass
gonna be
the
CO
window.
desk.
Heard.
He was like underneath rug default. Might be close left.
No,
too.
One going square. One going square.
Could be going box rag.
He's in box. He's going in box, Billy.
Heard.
I'm tracking
Fight this
Mel. I'm
box
tracking Mel.
guy.
It was
Just play
just
this
on
way.
me.
Could have dropped. Could be stuck right.
Failed the track.
Here, Capkin. Listen, just use the Deimos and look for picks. That's the only thing you guys can do here. You need to pick back. Basement's good. They're not playing WinCon from basement.
Yo, you guys
What's
should
that,
maybe
Mugen?
check. Can you check mud? There's
Like-
probably a guy in mud.
Flanking visa. Kill this guy.
You guys
He's
sprint
gonna
it.
be up
Literally
on
sprint to the guy and kill that guy. Scare
He's gonna be
Capkin.
up
Scare
coffee.
Capkin.
Going.
Where is he?
He's gonna be up coffee
I-
already, Zunky.
He probably like long distance. No,
Swinging glow. Swinging glow. Dead.
Nice.
That's
okay.
I think we hop
Nice.
spiral and just walk.
Let's go
You guys
fast.
are fine. Just wait for a track. Go
I'm
bench
gonna
this side. Go bench
I'm
this
gonna track
side.
Legion. I'm gonna track Legion. Let's walk.
Legion should be lounge.
Legion, buy box.
Here, here.
Put a
I'm
trap
gonna
in
go
here and
rotate.
play it. Pick care lounge. Could be lounge too.
Oh, and he's stuck on the bomb. Fuck.
Just try.
Yeah.
Nice try, nice try.
I'm already noticing two very different styles of comms here between these two teams. A lot more deliberate calls coming in from Turtle Tactics, a lot more shot calling. Meanwhile, the Unks, it just seemed like a lot more, you know, far-fetched. Not far-fetched, excuse me, a little bit more sparse. There was a lot more of, like, deliberateness to the calls. Meanwhile, Turtle Tactics, very interesting round from them. They had the Ying, they went in, lost a couple bodies. It seemed like it might have been recoverable there for a minute, but a lot of time was spent wasted on the yellow stairs by those last two members. It seemed as though they had a great idea about where those final couple players were, but the passivity of Turtle Tactics and the fact that they have been very slow with their attack cost them way too much time to be able to make that a manageable execute in the late round.
Yeah, and relatively a similar problem to what the Unks had on their own attack is just the lack of info. Obviously, they were really relying on those deathmark trackers to lead them into that bomb site, but once it came down to just simply tracking the Legion, they didn't have a drone or really any call on that Malusi behind bomb chassis, and yet again, they just died to one player that they were not aware of. Even going to the execution on that top floor, they went into a crossfire because they didn't have enough info, because they weren't fully aware that such a heavy three-man crossfire was set up. They just kind of walked into it unknowingly, playing exactly on how the Unks wanted them to. Again, it's just these simple problems. Because they don't have the info needed, they're not able to really correct their mistakes before it happens.
Match point now for the Unks. One more defense is all it needs to send themselves away with their first point of the finale. That'll be a big step for them. See if they could pull it off here. And look to set their sights towards Nighthaven Labs, a map that neither team has played thus far. Bless will actually be the first one hopping out of the building nonetheless, and he'll jump down right through the hatch that the Habana just opened up. So a little bit of a comedic turn of events there to start off this round. And Engaged as well, still out on the lurk. This is a very roam-heavy setup for the Unks. They're really trying to get out and get active on this map and send away this slow Turtle Tactics attack in very quick fashion. Engage will jump out of the piano window and kill the Ram. That is a huge loss for this basement attack.
Yeah, I mean, I really love this adaptation from the Unks, understanding that not only one, the Turtle Tactics have a consistency in info, just simply gathering it, but also they haven't really played this aggressive on their own, especially with such aggressive operators like an Ella. Obviously, Bless doing his own thing, he consistently will, but it's a situation where they haven't had the chance to deal with it. Big Matt with a big play, but eventually Spider will finish him off and throw it all in that engagement. Sure, your Turtle Tactics, you have cleared these top two floors, but you come out of it in a man deficit and still having to worry about Bless, but I don't exactly sure if his position is going to really come in handy here.
C4 in hand for Zolaris here. He has an idea that somebody's up above playing for the vertical. Breaching charge will go out. That's the second one the Spiders use. The C4 will go over the wall and it will down Trevmac. Beautiful toss there by Zolaris. And that means now it's a 4 versus 2 with match point on the line. We are looking like we might be heading towards Nighthaven Labs. We are steaming in that direction. Spider's going to go with the rotation here to try and pick his teammate back up as they still have yet to open that main garage wall. The Soto canisters and the Tuberow will even do a bigger job of wasting time here as they still can't even open the hatch. This is turning into disaster for Turtle Tactics. The main garage wall will get opened up finally with 30 seconds to go, but I fear it might be too little too late as this round might be almost done and dusted. They spot a player over by Red Car, but Solaris through the vertical crossbars will take him down, traded back by Dami, but 20 seconds to go here and still man advantage for the Unks to work with. They need to go quickly if you're Turtle Tactics. They need to start getting in and getting this plant down. Dami will have to cover as Trevmac looks to walk his way in. He's going to blind himself and the yellow swings out. Good for one. Ion's looking for the second one to send this map away and he'll get it. Ion's with the switch closes map 1 out in convincing fashion. The Unks come back from down 0-3 and only drop one more round after that as they get their first point here in the finale.
That's now 3 rounds in a row where the Turtle Tactics go into an execute where it is essentially rushed and they don't really have a whole lot of time to play with. They don't have a lot of map control to safely get that bomb down. And then one player from the Unks gets at least 2 to 3 kills. That happened 3 rounds consistently on their attack. The problem of them not moving fast enough, forcing themselves into these really late round executes to try and force that bomb down, essentially almost earring the 2020 style of SSG, is just not working, especially on how the Unks played so aggressively. It a lot of times isolated and allowed for them to play fluidly, moving throughout the map so quickly, and essentially kind of the definition of a series of rock, paper, scissors, the Unks playing perfectly, countering what the Turtle Tactics were trying to do on their attack.
Yeah, another big problem that I have to wonder is the fact that Millie was the first death for Turtle Tactics 4 out of the last 5 rounds, and 4 out of the last 5 rounds were won by the Unks. The opening pick became a big factor of the later half of that game, and I have to wonder, going into Nighthaven Labs, will that continue to be a trend? That opening pick is always so crucial, and it's so hard to fight back when you're on that man deficit, especially on the attack. But Goose, I believe it is time for us to take a break, as both these teams are going to need a second to catch their breath. When we come back, it's Nighthaven Labs. Map number 1 was a defensive slog here on Consulate, and it was in the end won out by the Unks 7-4 after they ripped out 4 of the last 5 rounds of the map to secure themselves their first point here in the finale. If you're just joining us, I'm Nomical, joined by Goose, and we are setting our sights towards Nighthaven Labs, map number 2 of this best of 3 series, and it's picked by Turtle Tactics. Neither of these teams have played this map yet in the finale, and I'm very excited to see what both of them bring out.
Yeah, and this is now the second time so far in the finale that Turtle Tactics have lost Consulate. It is a map that the Unks picked into both times. Turtle Tactics actually losing 4-7, the exact same scoreline. Sure, it's two different teams. You know, we questioned that pick, especially after the 0-3 start, but the Unks on their defense is locked in, going 4-1, and now we get to move on to the pick of the Turtle Tactics, that being all the way over in Nighthaven Labs. A little bit of a different map, but again, we talked about how just overall the play styles really did favor the Unks, countering essentially everything that Turtle Tactics did, aside from one round that just came down to getting off a really nice and clean execute. And again, this is a situation where, in my opinion, it isn't necessarily a Consulate problem, but a deep issue in the system. Not to say it's bad, but the system of consistently playing aggressive, more isolated and individually that the Unks have been bringing out, especially in the first map, is something that this system is not really set up to kind of shut down from the Turtle Tactics.
Yeah, we did see a lot of times that Turtle Tactics were running the clock down very, very low, and the Unks did a great job of reading into that. They were bringing a lot of stall operators. They were bringing Goya, they were bringing Smoke, Tachanka, Capcan even a couple times. And with a team that is newer, playing with their full five, such as Turtle Tactics are playing with Millie, who they just picked up, I believe, maybe a week or two ago, tops, and then having Trevmac just coming in, it's going to be a lot harder to have successful attacks, especially on a map that you may not be as comfortable on, like Consulate. And I think we can definitely say through 2 plays that Turtle Tactics are not comfortable, especially on the attack of Consulate.
Yeah, and again, I think we talked about how this is a really needed win for the Unks, because not only are they down 0-2, before that last map 1, they had 0 points. Because Turtle Tactics won 1 game, they had 1. Now the Unks, they have 1 point. Even if they go on to lose to them today, go down 0-3, they still have 1 more point than the previous days. But this is really a matchup where I don't want to say I expect the Unks to win in a 2-0 or even a 2-1 fashion, but I do expect them to just simply put up a better show today, especially going down 0-2. I even told you before we went live today that both teams were going to need to change up a lot. And so far today, it looks like the Unks changed up more, at least changed up in a better sense.
Looking ahead towards the Nighthaven Labs, we talked about in the last map that both of these teams have pretty stock standard bans. I would imagine that Turtle Tactics go back to banning something like the Deimos again. We talked about the fact that they do not like that operator, especially in their series against Carnico. They were very much not excited to play against that. Apparently grammar is just not my strong suit today. They were very afraid of the Deimos against Karn and Co. But we're going to get into the map now. The Unks will start off on the defense. So they'll get the first ban. On the 4th ban, I would imagine that we see the Blitz Valkyrie ban come out here once again. Like we talked about, that is a set of operators that they are not keen to play against, and there you go. We're going to start off with the Blitz. That's one of the 3 main shield operators off the board, and I would imagine, unless Turtle Tactics ban one out here, that means we're going to see a lot of Blackbeard and a lot of Monty.
Yeah, Turtle Tactics choosing to go into more of a Nighthaven Labs ban per se, and I really like that. I really do think that Turtle need to just come out here and directly take away as many favorable positions that the Unks have, especially starting on the defense. Also love that Tubarao ban, really just focusing on making that breach really hard to either 1, get open, or B, get closed. And because both of these bans are directly targeted towards just simply the breach as a whole, that gives me the idea, especially with the staff that they have a really good and consistent alternative. And then it flops back to the question of whether or not the Unks have a good alternative.
Yeah, I definitely am a fan of the Azami ban. They're talking about Clubhouse in the chat right now, and I think it ties in perfectly to my next point. Night Haven Labs is a very similar map in playstyle to Clubhouse. There is a lot of potential for a zombie in rafters, down in the basement. Even when you go to the tertiary site, you can hold rafters when you're playing storage. So banning a zombie makes a ton of sense. It makes it so much harder to hold those different power positions of the map. And while it isn't what we've seen from the Unks with the Valkyrie ban that we see so many times, it's still a very strong and very prevalent operator in the meta, and it means that that is going to be a little bit easier for the attack to clear out those different power positions. Now, we aren't going to see the Valkyrie in round number 1 as we're on the top floor. We're instead going to see the Pulse, which is in its own right a very strong operator for information. And it's so strong, in fact, that Ions is currently sitting down in the basement. He wants to hide this operator and make sure that Turtle Tactics have no idea that he's there.
And Nomical, we spoke about this at the end of map 1. I'm going to bring it up here again, especially now that the Turtle Tactics are starting on the attack, and how important getting that entry pick is for this team, especially going to that execution. You talked about in those 4 rounds, the one round that they won was also the only round that they got the entry pick. Starting on the attack, that is going to be, yet again, continuously a very important factor of whether or not they can win those entry fights, especially with players like Ions playing so aggressively in a phenomenal snipe, not only from Dami, but they're already isolating him with Trevmac on the Monty. Wow, horrible C4.
Yeah, you can see here that they have a full read on where this Pulse is playing. Ions is basically just playing to delay time and just try and stay alive as long as he possibly can at this point. Dami will find the opener on to engage. That's the Warden off the board, and here comes the run-in. Solaris is downstairs somehow. You'd think we're on the basement side at this point. Everybody is just fighting on the bottom 2 floors right now. Nobody is on the top floor. The Monty's downstairs. 2 members of the Unks are downstairs. There's nobody on the top floor besides Dead, and he's in connector. Millie runs into sight, drops the diffuser in the middle of the pillar area. What are we doing? What is happening? Blitz, or not Blitz, Monty, the next one trying to take a fight with Solaris on the retake up Aqua's stairs. He's got 2 members of the Unks being held at bay right here. The second one, I believe that's Bless, is looking for the rotation. The second member of Turtle Tactics will join the Monty on the stairs. And now we're down somehow to a 2v2 as we're finally getting back to the floor where the site is actually located. Literally all of the action happened on the bottom 2 floors on a top floor clear. What is happening?
Yeah, Bless with another one. It's Trevmac all alone. Dead finishes it off in a very questionable round. We talked about how it was going to be really important for that opening kill.
I'm so confused.
Turtle Tactics, they were able to get that opening pick, but the Unks read into how much pressure they were trying to force on just simply clearing out Ions. And because Ions wasted just enough time to allow for Dolores to add some help, and throughout that entire engagement in the first half, the Unks were able to not only get that first initial trade, but come out of that engagement in a 3v3. And then going into this late round, a lot of bad decisions, especially on the defense. Both sides having a difficult round, making a lot of questionable decisions. But it was eventually the Unks coming out in pair. And this is exactly what I talked about. Turtle Tactics as a team, their entire structure relies on team play. The Unks, they obviously have a lot of team play. They wouldn't be this high in T3, T2 if they weren't able to play that. But they also really love to lean into individual aggressive players. And sure, they do sometimes die and live on that hill. But so far, especially going up against a team like Turtle Tactics, it is working perfectly against them.
5 seconds left. Attackers must locate and
I genuinely am just in shock from the last round because, like I said, we spent the whole round fighting on the basement. Now we're down to the basement, actually, for this round number 2. Ion's running outside to reinforce the kitchen hatch. Turtle Tactics have information about that, and, well, Ions is dead. So the roam already starting off as a disaster for the Unks here, as they will lose their first body for the second round in a row. Turtle Tactics 2-0.
W Matt, man, put this guy on blast. Oh my god, full 4K, actually like 360p more like it, but you know, the name and profile picture.
I don't know if
you
that
get the
showed
idea.
up on stream, but we just got trolled by our producer, and it was the. This is a great start to map number 2.
Yeah, it is really a great start. And I talked about how the Younks were going to live or die on that aggressive individuality. So far, they have lived and died. Spider eventually, after getting that first pick, will lose his life. And losing an ace this early into the round, a minute without having any use on the bomb site for Ella, I'm taking that 9 times out of 10. And Turtle Tactics also not in a position to immediately get that trade back. The Unks perfectly moving around these players, holding the cut, but a lot of info here from this drone from Dami.
Yeah, just over half the round to go here. 4v4. There is still 2 players out on this mid floor. You've got Engage over inside a lounge, and then you've got Zolaris playing over by vending stairs. Dead and Bless holding firm down on the bomb site. No more hard breach available for Turtle Tactics here, so that Animus hatch is going to stay closed for the remainder of this round, and that means that Turtle Tactics are going to have to fight their way down a staircase, which is definitely not going to be an easy task. Gumine's going to start to rain out here, and that'll give away a little bit of information over towards Zonky and his position. Engage is still out here on the lurk. Don't believe they know he's here. Still plenty of drones available here for Turtle Tactics, but nobody really keen to use them at this point. Could hop on them just to check out some flanks here and there, but you're not really at a point in the round where you can truly drone. You have to go. You have to get aggressive here. You have to take the space, and you have to set yourselves up for an execute. Breaching charge is going to go off on the floor. One of the players going to be spotted. I believe that was the foot of the bandit, but he's not going to be able to land that kill. And still, Engage persists on the mid floor. He can spring into action at a moment's notice and just completely blow this round wide open. Animus's castle barricaded off. This is going to be a very hard execute. And here comes the flank. Engage good for 1. Maybe a second one as the second player looks to work his way down cargo stairs. Bless picks up 1. Trevmac trades it out, but it's 2 quick trades again for the Unks. And they'll take the 2-0 start to Nighthaven Labs.
If it continues, it is going to be a tough live VOD review for the Mint stream. But again, I mean, we've talked about it round in round, even before this map started, Nomical. The same consistent problems of not using that info to the fullest capability and allowing individual players. It's not like there's a really heavy 2 to 3 player roam. It is round after round where you have one player who either one goes unnoticed in the bomb site or goes unnoticed on the roam, goes for that flank, and has massive effect. Not only do you not just have any of these roamers being droned out, but you also don't have a consistent flank watch or a consistent anti-flank operator, like maybe a Gridlock or hell even a Nomad. And because of that, consistently being round in and round out, not only have the Unks noticed it, but they're now playing into it, using it to their advantage.
10 seconds to insertion.
Third round here, third site for the Unks. Taking us down to storage as the tertiary option. We've seen a lot of Bandit through these first couple of rounds. Bless going to be on that once again here. I'd have to imagine that it's going to be very impactful. There has been a lot of hard breach focus for Turtle Tactics, and rightfully so. Nighthaven Labs is a map where you need to bring a lot of hard breach, especially for the bottom and top floor sites. And, well, one of those hard breaches is going to be dead right away. A Spider not having the best go of things. He'll be the first one off the board in round number 3. That's the Habana gone, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Zofia and the Ace for this round to make sure that they can stay alive and have impact when it comes down to getting a lot of these walls open. Things are getting worse by the second here as well for Turtle Tactics. Trevmac eats a lot of damage from a C4, and that is not somebody that you want to be losing, especially when you're already down a body. You want to keep him alive. You want to be able to use that Monty to go for the plant here. And it looks like this might be a quick take in through storage. I'm not entirely sure. They seem to be keen for it, but it doesn't look as though it's going to actually be able to happen right now. Here comes the Zofia stuns coming out, or the impacts rather, as it looks as though it might have just been a cover to try and help get the IT wall open. And it looks like it'll be done successfully here just about a minute into the round.
Yeah, that's really unlucky for Turtle Tactics, because if they just had a little bit more info, they would have been able to realize that there was only one player on site, that they could use that Monty and the Zofia to just isolate them and then get the plant down. You also didn't have vertical created that by that player playing in IT, so that would have been a really easy plant to go off. But sure, you still get that breach open, still haven't been able to trade back that first initial loss of that player, still have so much pressure on this top floor, have to get this wall open inside of Raptors, and there's just so much work to do. Minute and 20 to do it, so there's still quite a bit of time to play with, but losing that first initial player with Spider is really going to continue to haunt them.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the fact that they play slow, even in a man-advantage situation. A man down, and with TrevMac on low HP, they have played this so slowly. There is one player in the building, and they're at the bottom of warehouse. Now, technically two, but still, the point still stands. There is no map control here for Turtle Tactics. With less than a minute to go, this round is going to be a nightmare for them to try and pull out with just... I mean, this time is ticking down, and they're just going to have to go for broke. They are just jumping into the storage window. Millie will be the next one dead. He's having a rough go of things the last 7 rounds or so. TrevMac gets another C4 landing his way. He'll still be doing even more damage, but 2 kills come right back. And suddenly this round is very much wide open for Turtle Tactics to try and take. They have some sort of control over towards storage. There's a couple players over inside of the A side that they have to worry about. TrevMac will walk his way forward here. He spots the Mira playing inside of sight. Do they know about the fact that there's a second player over inside of storage? It doesn't look as though they do. Dami will shut down the bandit though. Solaris eats some more damage from the Zofia playing outside in the main hallway. Here comes the push in, and it's another kill for Dami, his 3rd of the round. And now it's all left up to the Zofia. Here comes the flank from the Thatcher, and Dami picks up 4 massive frags. And Turtle Tactics are finally on the board.
Yeah, phenomenal regroup and execution from Turtle Tactics. Be able to just play off of each other's bodies. A phenomenal cross being held on that top floor. Turtle Tactics actually taking time out. And I was even going to say, and we're going to be going in for a listen in.
Garden take is going to allow us to get picks. I think we should be just switching everything to getting picks because they are playing flanks on us really heavy. Exactly what we did with that storage. You guys just walking around the fucking map getting like targets and picks. I think that should be the rest of basically labs for us. Like CC, we could do a slow garden take. If you bait Zonky lower and put a second guy under, I think we can really just work picks on him. Get like underneath cams. Just like really fucking take our time. Garden and IT, like really slow play. They are spawn peeking. They're just trying to go for C4 picks. They're going to power us. Bait the shit out of the under. Labs, if you do a kitchen over, just again, watch for the fucking flanks. They're hurting us. So just use the fucking Montaigne. Just walk around the map. Bring the Dokkaebi. Just work the fucking picks. Storage. I would run that shit back. I would do the exact same take there. Just Spider don't get spawn peeked. All right, defense again. Remember when we switch to defense, we give them fucking nothing, but we don't give map control for free, all right? Dial the fuck in. Bring this map back.
Third.
There definitely has been a lot of aggression from the Unks throughout this map. And I think that they have the right read. I mean, other than the fact that you don't get spawn picked, I thought that was a funny line. Like, sometimes you just can't help it. Sometimes you just can't help it. But otherwise, I think that it's entirely true. You cannot play into it. You need to be not only just, I mean, he used the word baiting, but I would say make sure that you're refragging your teammates. Like, you cannot continue to find yourselves in these 3v5s like you were in the last round. And if you could continue to keep the man count relatively even, I think the Turtle Tactics definitely have a lot of potential to pull this half back.
Yeah, and I think one of the main problems, obviously it kind of dwindles down to a lot of things like not having info, not being able to consistently get control without losing players. But at the end of the day, so far in these first 3 rounds, even going back to the early half of that last round, Turtle Tactics hasn't been able to get a consistent read on this defense from the So you talked about, or Mint rather talked about, how you needed to just be a lot more wary of the roam, how they're trying to go for flanks, even propping up the idea of bringing that Dokkaebi, bringing out those calls just to find those isolated roamers. And that's something that they haven't really been able to counter or exactly predict so far in these 3 previous rounds.
I mean, I hate to bring this attention up again as well, but like I said, at some point in the last round, Millie has had a rough go of things, and that is not somebody that you want to be seeing going 0-3, dying first constantly, playing on that Ash. You need your entry fragger awake. You need him getting that space. You need him getting those kills. And right now, it's just not happening. We're just now getting boots in the building once again, and it's Dami, the first one, taking over by meeting. Everybody else, again, just outside. You burn an entire minute, and you have barely any map control to show for it.
Yeah, to be fair, this is a bomb site that does move a little bit faster as soon as you get that control inside of connector, open up IT wall. Spider's going to be able to open up that connector wall. That's going to push back Bless from holding that aggressive position. You still have that head hole on the site wall to worry about Zoloris playing behind with the C4 in pocket, but it's Big Matt. It's engaged to shut down Trevmech early on. And sure, he is able to open that wall, but it's simply going to be head holds. You're not going to be able to take that point of control from the breach, and that's really going to put this attack in an awkward point of anything. They're not going to be able to easily get into that point of the map over by IT and Raptors.
The good news is you still have one exothermic charge left in Spider's back pocket, but with that time continuing to burn down once again, I feel like a broken record here. Slow attack coming in from Turtle Tactics. You have to be careful. You cannot continue to burn away too much time, otherwise the exothermic charge is going to be relatively useless. You've also got a couple of pocket hard breach charges for Zonky, but he hasn't had the chance to use either of those just yet. Vector will get reinforced off here by Zolaris as they look to fall back and just play these last 45 seconds or so very close to the site. Grenade comes in. Nice bait there by Millie. Gets his first kill. Zonky on the board as well. And now man advantage for Turtle Tactics to work with after two very well timed and very well executed quick picks back. Again, the only problem is that time has been a huge factor through these rounds. They have to go, especially with this Echo on the board. Dead could look to get active here. He could look to get aggressive, and he will. He'll take the head of Millie off the board, and now down to equal man count. This is not where you want to be if you're Turtle Tactics. You need to get in quickly, and you need to try and get this plant down. Dami needs to get in with that case, and he'll look to facilitate that. Where is Dead with the Echo here? That's the big question. Although it may not even matter as the C4 goes out. He'll down the man with the diffuser, but it's another kill right back. The Echo is all alone in a 1v2. You just have to kill Zonky if you're dead. He's looking for the fight. Spider has to cover here. He has to be perfect in the dying moments. He'll down the second one, picks up the third one. A huge 4K in the round for Dead, and he'll confirm all three downs and the case as well. The Echo does his late round job perfectly, and he'll let him know about it as well. He has all the time in the world to get that case, and he'll get the third round for the Unks.
Wow, all three players lined and grouped up perfectly for that 1v3, almost as Carp just falling into the bait trap. And now 3-1. Keep in mind, sure, it is attack on Nighthaven Labs, but this isn't a sense where Turtle Tactics is simply just struggling on Labs attack. They struggled over on Consulate also. I mean, I understand it's Consulate, but this is a problem that goes down to how they are playing against the Unks. Yet another round where they had 1 to 2 major issues. First, losing Trevmech is going to be crucial, but more importantly, they lost Trevmech in a position where he wasn't fully able to get I2 wall open. There was no real pressure from the Turtle Tactics to get any control, whether it be inside of IT or Raptors, and that allowed for that Bandit to rotate over, get that C4 off, and just give that Echo enough time to go for the flank and win. It's, again, this attention to small details, or the lack of, that Turtle Tactics has not put up, that's really costing them these rounds.
Crazy play there by Dead. I mean, my goodness. Didn't even have any of the yokai drones available. He could have denied that without even having to take the fight. But he chose to do it the hard way. Maybe because he didn't have any yokais left. I'm not sure. Didn't see where the two were located before the round ended. Nonetheless, they'll take it either way. A round win is a round win. And like you said, Turtle Tactics have to be scratching their heads. That was probably the best chance of a round we've seen where they were really in control for most of it. At least the late round. The one round they've got so far was mostly due to a huge 4K by Dami. And you just cannot be relying on stuff like that to win you rounds constantly. You need to have better timing. You need to have better team play. And here comes a run out from Ions. He can't get anything. And Zonky is there to cover his teammate perfectly. You got to be scratching your head there for your Ions. He has had a rough go of things thus far in the finale. 0-5 to start this map off. And Turtle Tactics will definitely take that.
Yeah, you could even see that he was tripping over that in the old chat. But again, it's those simple aggressive plays that we've seen round in and round out. A couple of rounds it has success, like the Trevmech losing his life earlier on, even Millie's losing his life quite a bit. But the fact that Turtle Tactics were able to punish an aggressive yet easy play to get that entry pick is something that they need to beat. Any opportunity to get an entry pick for the Turtle Tactics is absolutely a phenomenal opportunity for them. Even almost catching off Zoloris. Sure, you're not able to get that kill, but you are able to push down that player. Now, essentially, eliminating only 2 roamers on this top floor. And with 1:30, this is plenty of time to clear them out.
Apparently we're calling the game here. Engage called game, everybody. We can all go home. Well, technically we are already at home, but that's besides the point. About a minute
we
to
don't
go
go
here
outside.
in round number 5. Man advantage still for Turtle Tactics to work with. It's been relatively quiet since Ions had that unfortunate whiff at the start of the round on the run out. Top 2 floors firmly in the control of Turtle Tactics, other than Dead, who's currently sat pretty much playing to die at this point inside of storage. He's going to try and see, maybe he can take a body or two with him at this point. Millie, thank you. Spotted his head. That is an absolute freebie for the Ram to work with. And now 2 bodies up are Turtle Tactics here with 45 seconds to go. Plenty of time and plenty of opportunities to facilitate this push down onto that bottom floor. You've got a lot of control. You've still got that Ram up that can work the vertical. You've got the Monty for a safe plant. The only big problem is you still have all your hard breach available. You have not used any hard breach yet, and now you've lost your sledge. Nice kill there from Bless. Looking to get refragged, and indeed he will be by Dami on the Dokkaebi with 1 call remaining. There's still a lot of utility available. Now with that 2-man advantage, once again, there should be no reason why Turtle Tactics are not able to facilitate this execute. The only problem might be the Goyo fire, like you said, yeah, perfectly. And another kill comes in from Zolaris. Maybe another one available, but now it's a 1v2 for Engage at the bottom of Cargo Stairs. Is that Dokkaebi thankfully able to play the trade game like we saw that entire round beautifully, and they'll take that round win, the second one for Turtle Tactics.
Yeah, I mean, a great round win, great round to really just collect yourselves, get those kills, especially with that last player just running into a wall like he's an NPC. But again, there are too many variables that Turtle Tactics do not have their eye on. That is a round that the Unks very well could have had a 4-1 lead. Keep in mind, I mean, it took them 2 minutes, like essentially 30 seconds of just Dead sitting there by himself for them to read into that. They didn't have those Goyo fires checked. They didn't really have a different alternative, so they had to scramble and then run over to that little bit of connector by bottom Cargo Stairs. And sure, you did win it, but it's a 5v3 that turned into a more than winnable situation for the Young simply because you weren't checking off a lot of those small variables like the Goyo fires, not having a different alternative, and going for a very one-dimensional push.
Yeah, it was a good round overall, but the biggest thing that I think really inhibited Turtle Tactics through that round is the fact that it was such a one-dimensional push. Well, maybe 1.5, we'll call it. You had players playing the vertical, and then you had the cargo push down the stairs. But other than that, there wasn't really a lot going on. They didn't even open any of the main breaches or main hatches to try and give themselves an extra bit of pressure. Spider died in that round with all 3 Selmas still in back pocket, which is something that you really cannot be having, especially with the Ram still alive, especially with that 2-man advantage. So it's just those small things that can really help speed up these Turtle Tactics attacks that have been so slow and just cannot continue to be this slow if you're going to find more success.
Yeah, this time around you can see that Turtle Tactics is moving with a lot more pace. They've spotted that Ions is on this roam, whether or not they know he is isolated. They have this Monty to apply that pressure, hopefully an additional player to help clear him out, but they have to worry about not only Zoloris by bending, but also Bless. Phenomenal there, but again, here comes Bless trying to get a couple of shots onto that Monty. That's all he's going to get. Is he aware of the player on the window? And he is! He's able to get that kill onto Dami, get the refrag, and take off Dokkaebi, probably one of the most influential and important operators that the Turtle Tactics have.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even, it's at this point, it's basically not even like they got an opening kill. Ions cannot buy himself a kill at this point. 0-6, and is just not having a very fun go of things. So basically, if anything, you've helped the Youngs here by putting him on cameras, and they've got plenty of cameras, 2 bulletproofs, 3 black eye cameras, and all the defaults still up. There is going to be a plethora of information available for the Unks in this round. And I'd have to think that they will know exactly what it is that Turtle Tactics are going to do. The only thing that really could stop them is going to be Zonky on that IQ. He needs to get active, and he needs to take out a lot of this information that the Unks have. Bless is still roaming on this mid floor, and he's got the support of Zolaris, but they're going to look to fall back as that Monty has been staring them in the face for the last minute or so. With just about 65 seconds to go, Turtle Tactics finally have the 2-floor control that they need.
But there's just so much to get. They, like you said in the previous round, haven't opened up any of the site breaches. They haven't really put any pressure onto any of these hatches. You are able to shoot that Vulcan canister, but Bless is able to catch Trevmac off guard, and you lose your Monty. you're starting to bleed not only in numbers, but influential operators after another operator.
Yeah, man disadvantage now for Turtle Tactics. They're just going to have to push their way down these staircases with low time once again. It's going to have to be a quick push, and they're just not ready for it at all. Blessed with his third kill of the round is able to catch Zonky on an absolute freebie. Looking for a fourth kill, cannot leverage it. It's a 3v1 though, as Spider is left all alone on the ace. He'll have to go big here in this round, and he has no information to work with. With 10 seconds to go, he's just going to have to walk right in here, detonate the canisters as he can. The bandit pops up, and Dead is able to put him out of his misery. It's a 4-2 half for the Unks.
Simple for a guy like me. I don't know. I think if we had like a tier list of like what's worse, you'd have at F you'd have going 0-6, and then below that is getting cooked by Nomical. I mean, it doesn't get worse than that, but a 2-4 half for attacking on.
Okay. I'm leaving. You can solo cast the rest of the night.
It's okay. I have voices in my head. I talk to myself all the time. I can do it. 2-4 half on the attack for Turtle Tactics. This is nothing to really. I don't want to say scoff at, but it's nothing. It could be worse. But you've already used your timeout, and sure, Mint did a really good job of setting up the context, the idea of what they want to do going on further, not only throughout the entire first half, but then going on in the second half on their defense. But it's a situation where there was a lot of rounds where you just made so many consistent mistakes. It could have been a 3-3 half. There were like 1 to 2 rounds that Turtle Tactics easily could have won of, but they just simply didn't have enough info. They let a couple of singular players go unnoticed, and it costed them at least an even half, maybe even a winning half. And this is their map pick. You do expect them to at least get more than what you'd usually expect from that defense.
I don't know if I'd go as far as what Bless said in the chat a moment ago as to call it a 4v6, but Ions definitely needs to have some more impact here, and you're putting him on a great operator to do that. You're putting him on the Blackbeard, you're making him be that frontal assault, and that's going to be even better. You still have that man advantage to work with now. You've got the opening kill. You've taken out Dami, the best player on this map so far for Turtle Tactics. Got yourselves a great opening very early on into the round, and now you can start to set your sights on taking care of the primary objectives, such as opening the IT wall, getting yourselves control of whatever other portion of the map that you want to, whether it be rafters, whether it be connector. You've got plenty of time to make it all happen.
Yeah, man. I mean, these guys are like Soulja Boy, the way they're able to be first at everything. So far, they're able to be first in these entry kills, but eventually Zonky, he's able to get that trade back, take that buck off of the board, and that's a lot of vertical pressure. Now removed from the attack, makes it a little bit more comfortable, but as I say that, Dead with yet another, shutting down TrevMac and applying a lot of pressure over onto Raptors.
Oh no, don't do it to him, Millie. Chuck that C4, send Ions blown sky high.
Oh.
C4 go out, Ions
Hated
able to get himself back quickly enough. He will survive that engagement. Millie will just continue to sit and hold court on Raptors with that mirror window to help assist him. Spider will fall back towards the site here. We're just about halfway through this round. And despite the fact that they are in a man disadvantage, Turtle Tactics, I don't think are in a horrible position. They've got themselves relatively healthy. They've got themselves 3 bodies sitting on the site. And they've got those mirror windows still to work with. So it's definitely not out of the question for them to pull this round back. Zolaris is down below, so we will be able to have some impact, potentially with a couple frag grenades, maybe as well just sit down there and provide a bit of a bait. Zonky looks to get aggressive as Zolaris looks to go for a rotation over towards Aqua Stairs. With just about a minute to go, it seems as though we're back to a little bit of that calm before the storm.
Yeah, Turtle Tactics taking a lot of least favorable engagements, and it all falls down to a Zonky 1v4. It's possible, but not that feasible.
Yeah, he's got players approaching him from all sides. You had a player rushing in from Aqua, 2 players coming in from E-Box, and well, that round just did not seem like it was that great from Turtle Tactics. It really didn't help that you lost that body early on, especially considering that Dami has been your best player. But just overall, now Turtle Tactics find themselves in a very rough spot. 2 rounds away from losing this series outright and not securing any points and giving the Unks their first overall win.
Yeah, I mean, even taking away the win factor going to the execution, whenever there's a round where Turtle Tactics lose that entry pick, they play really aggressive, sometimes even isolated. You even talked about some of those players not taking the most favorable engagements, probably playing a little bit too silly, specifically the Cade going way too deep over IT breach and eventually two players losing kills to 1vx's. It's a situation where if you lose that entry pick as Turtle Tactics, there is no consistent game plan to recover the round. And not only do teams consistently realize that, but in this matchup so far, the Unks have read into it perfectly.
I do have to say, I am starting to become more impressed with the Unks in this series. It seems as though they're getting back into that higher form, despite the fact that, like we talked about, Ions has not had a great go of things. The rest of the team is definitely starting to feel themselves again. You can tell that the vibes are definitely getting back. The coordination is getting back to a more acceptable level for a T2 team that finished top 4. And just in general, it seems as though they are playing more like the team we saw back in Challenger Series. I am very impressed with what I've seen from them here on Nighthaven Labs. And as we get back into their second attack, it's going to be about the same thing we saw from last round. The only big difference I'm interested to see is going to be Bless here on this Nook. He's going to have the potential to go for a potentially important, very crucial backstab. Looking over towards main lobby, he'll start to work his way inside as the rest of the team starts to go to work on that IT wall and other portions of hard breach that you so often see. And right now, it's just that phase where you start to establish yourself throughout the map and figure out what it is that you want to accomplish in this round and where the potential gaps might be.
The question is if they're going to be able to bait Zonky into this gunfight. That shot, please tell me that one shot from the Blackbeard doesn't bait Zonky into this rappel. He's going to swing right. He got impatient. He's going to take things into his own hands. Isn't able to kill Zonky, but I talked about how the Unks were setting up a trap, but a little bit of a trap from Trevmac with that C4 down below. No real vertical pressure from the Turtle Tactics. But before we go any further, we're going to get a little quick listen in.
Yo, Frank, I'm going to storage cam. Storage cam.
I can get on it. Hang on.
Touching.
3.
It's gone. Storage cam gone.
Okay, all right, 3,
You missed,
2,
Matt.
1.
That's not good. Hold on.
I need to get the wall.
Is he gone down here?
Oh, he's up here.
No.
Oh.
Bro, like, what?
Benny, rotate it off and get an IT wall. I'm gonna just walk through IT.
No.
IT.
Storage.
I'm done with you. I'm wanting your garage.
Oh shit.
He's on the tuck.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
So don't do it on me.
Yeah, he's IT.
He's
IT.
IT.
Alright, we force it now, right?
We should have just got someone else.
Well, that round was quite a disaster for the
Dude.
Unks, to be quite honest. A bit of a miss drone down inside of storage. One player, Trevmac, just sits there and waits on the mute. And, I mean, you lose 2 bodies quickly to that player. You lose the Nook, you lose the Blackbeard. Your 2 main win cons for that round. And after that, it just steamrolled into probably the best round we've seen for this map for Turtle Tactics.
I mean, going all the way from Consulate now here on to Labs, there is round after round where Turtle Tactics just do not expect players to be in positions that they're playing. And so far, it has worked. Unks not being able to lock in a couple of those rounds, they were able to get a couple of favorable positions, but we talked about how that info game was a problem for them on map 1. Right there in that round, that is probably one of the worst info games I have seen so far today in this series. I mean, not only did you miss the player inside a cargo, you lost not only 2 players, but a Blackbeard who probably should have won that, but then you didn't know the player in IT. It's 1 round. It's okay. It is also the first one. You do see teams need a little bit of time to settle into their attacks. It's nothing to really scoff at, but it is a round that will send a message to the Unks.
You know what I thought was weird? It seemed as though Bless knew exactly where Trevmag was. He was sitting there on the Nook in the lounge hallway about to walk into storage, and he had the right read on where the player was, but he just walked right in without checking that box and then died. So, I don't know. It was just a bit of a weird engagement, to be honest. But round number 9 here. Turtle Tactics looking to make it a game once again. They've got us back within 2, so it's definitely not out of the question for them to make this comeback, especially on Nighthaven defense. But Solars is currently getting great value here on this Twitch, using those drones to great perfection, grabbing multiple pieces of utility, including those mute jammers. I believe he got one of the black-eyed cams as well, so already having great value, and that means that it's going to be a little bit harder for Turtle Tactics to hold on here.
It's going to be a little bit harder for us to actually look at the match too, but I talked about how that win con of just getting those entry picks, yay! is really good. And for the very first round, it's, Turtle Tactics are playing a lot more isolated. They're playing in, more rat spots, and that's something that the Younks were not prepared for this round. They are being a little bit more cautious. They are able to push down at least only one player on this top floor, getting this vertical in astonishingly a fast pace. They only need one player to push out, just a couple of shots, maybe even a nade or a flashbang. Even if they're able to get millies, that Cam is going to isolate him. And honestly, a little bit overplaying his hand here.
First pick gonna go for Bless here. Millie now off the board. Like you were saying, overplaying his hand. Bandit gonna be the first one dead. But I don't believe that's gonna be too big of a kill, especially considering that a lot of the hard breaching duties have been done. So not really gonna have any more impact on the Bandit other than the gun in hand and C4 in pocket. Of course, you'd like to have that operator still alive, but you're not going to complain too much about losing him. But drop shotting down onto the bottom of Warehouse is Zalaris, taking down Trevmac as the C4 flew past his head, barely escaping the jaws of death, and will claim another one of his own. Now 5v3 here, things looking a little bit dire for Turtle Tactics. Zonky, Dami, and Spider need to hold on here, but thankfully you've got two of the top 3 fraggers alive to do it, and Spider as well will come alive with his 3rd kill of the map. Now things seem like they may be a little bit more winnable, especially considering there is only 30 seconds to go, and there is very little control towards the site established for the Unks. They need to move in, and they need to get this plant down very soon, otherwise they're just going to lose this round outright. Dead will get active, and he'll take Zonky down, so now it's a 4v2. Dami and Spider do still both have C4s, however, and they've got that mirror window to hold court with. Maybe not for much longer. Ooh, nice shot there to take out that Selma charge. And now this round still seems like it might be just that much more winnable by Turtle Tactics. Where's the control? Where is the push coming in? One down for Spider, maybe a second one, but he's pinched from all 3 sides by the 3 remaining members of the Unks. But no, the diffuser is not planted, and they'll just win it on time.
Oh my god!
He got off the plant with no time left. What is happening?
I think it's because he was too close. I think he was too close to that, like, I don't know, like little storage crate there that the game registered him trying to plant, but then it was like, okay, you're too close. Then it took him off. If he was literally a couple of centimeters away, he would have been able to get that plant down. That's a round that, honestly, if the C4 was timed, he wasn't in the best position. He could have thrown it close enough. I think he's trying to throw it over by default by the single window. But either way, it was relatively more of a winnable round. But again, just based off of that, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Based off of that,
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, based off of that misplay from the Unks, it gives Turtle Tactics not only a round, but that is a round where you get a little bit of a mental boost. You get a little bit of a laugh, but sure, that is a situation where you were in a 1v4 and you were banking off just getting that C4 placement right. And still a round where sure they won it, but there's still a lot to work off, especially not isolating player after player and allowing for the Youngs to read into it perfectly.
I mean, he had a camera active. They still had the Valkyrie, so it's entirely possible that the C4 could have landed, but Turtle Tactics will definitely be thanking their lucky stars that they were able to get that round win. Now back within 1. Definitely seems like we might have ourselves a game once again. Trevmac, be careful, my friend. The mute almost the first one off the board as Zalaris looked like he had information and was almost able to get that kill, but not quite yet. Dami's still out on the roam here, takes the fight, wins it against the Blackbeard. Nice shots by the Valkyrie. Able to blow this round wide open. That is the top performing player. And a second one for Dami. Now Bless off the board for Turtle Tactics. Finding themselves now with a man advantage situation. C4 flies out the lounge window. Does not connect. Still, it's going to make Turtle Tactics that much more empowered, and it's going to make the Unks that much more scared, especially considering Dami is still up here, and he's having to take a fight with Ions, who's currently 3-7. That fight definitely favors Dami in this situation. He just cannot seem to miss at this point. We're barely even a minute in, Goose, and it seems as though everybody in the server's dead.
Yeah, that is a huge play. Not only do you get that entry pick, but you get your IQ and the Blackbeard off the board. You still have Zonky on the roam, and from the positioning and the placement of the drones from the Younks, they have no idea that this Legion is anywhere close to roaming. Eventually, Ions will be running up here. If he doesn't get a call, though, this could be a really easy kill for Zonky.
Oh, they have no idea. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Ion's dead. Doe could be calling all. It doesn't matter. He seems to have no clue about where that player was. And Zonkey is feeling himself. He'll just reascend up the Aqua stairs looking for another fight. There's 2 more players up here that potentially have a kill written all over it for him. Zolaris, the next one on the board. Does he know that Matt's flanking? I don't think he does. Matt, do you have info, my friend? Yes, you do. Zonkey will finally end his reign of terror on the top floor. And that means that the Unks can finally start to return and set their sights towards this bottom floor. 2 minutes into the round, mind you. This round seems as though it might all just be turtle tactics.
Matt does have 2 flashes in his pocket, but they don't have enough time or info to really work off of. It just takes one simple crossfire, especially with Millie and Spider over by this connector by Exosuit. You just have to isolate one player and he's gone. The C4 will come out. It won't really have any effect whatsoever, but that is just a little bit more utility wasted for the Youngs.
25 seconds now. Zolaris has been allowed to descend himself down into Exo. Does he know about the player in the hallway behind him? It doesn't look as though he does. He's going to walk right into a trap here with the plant about to go down. They have to try and attempt this, but it doesn't look like it's going to be able to happen here. Zolaris will find himself stuck in a goo mine, and Millie is just waiting for his chance to pop up. Does he know about the player in the corner? He's good for 1, but traded right back, and now Engage just has to go for kills here with 2 or 3 seconds to go. Turtle Tactics will tie the game as it's that Nighthaven defense coming to life, and they find themselves with 3 in a row.
The problem with the structure of Turtle Tactics is in a T3, T2 scenario, it works against teams with not a lot of experience, especially going on to the defense, but going up against a team like the Youngs, that structure is not going to hold as much value. But now that we've switched on over to this attack, and essentially, I don't want to use the phrase that the Youngs are playing without their heads on their body, but that is really what it looks like. Making a lot of crucial mistakes individually that just stack up to be a really big problem. And this structure, especially a perfect example going into that plant, a perfect crossfire, Turtle Tactics playing that win factor of just letting the time tick down, letting the Youngs spoil their own game, their own win percentage was phenomenal. And that structure really coming into play on the second half.
Well, we are guaranteed all 12 rounds of regulation at a minimum here on Nighthaven Labs, my friend. It's been an exciting one thus far. We need to see some more, though, out of these players, such as Trevmac. Ions needs to wake up and find some kills. Otherwise, it looks as though this defensive side of Nighthaven Labs is going to be that win condition, and we might be barreling towards that map 3. Turtle Tactics are definitely the ones favored heading into these final 2 rounds of regulation. Back out on the board. Ooh, excuse me, voice crack. We're back out on the board once again. That's the second time that's happened this series. I do not know what's going on. I guess I'm just rusty after 5 months off, but that's neither here nor there. The Unks are going to start to clear this top floor. As always, you will see the IT wall be that main point of contest to start things off, and you've got the Zofia out here by Engage, so that'll make it at least a little bit easier to try and clear it. And they'll actually get the down on the bandit off of that. That is absolutely crazy. Millie will likely be an easy finish here, unless Dead just doesn't see him. Spider kills his teammate. That's what a sequence of events, my friend.
They didn't know he was downed either. That's like a really easy
That's what I was
player.
saying. He was right next to Dead.
Yeah, that is a huge blow. I understand throwing at the C4. Obviously, the Youngs not fully aware that that player on that rappel had fully retreated down to the roof. Not only do you not get that opening pick, but you technically do, but on yourselves. A very unlucky engagement there. You lose IT, you lose Millie, you also lose a C4 with it, and also Spider losing his C4. All C4s now gone, no explosive utility. Also no echoes on the board, nothing to really play spoilers on that plant. 1:20 for the Unks to work with, a very comfortable position for them to go into the execute.
Yeah, just about half the round to go here for the Unks to try and work their way in through the building. You've got Ions at the top of Rafters here. I'm not sure if anybody's currently with him. It looks as though Bless will join him over on Rafters, and they're going to start to open up the command wall and deal with that mirror window that's on that main triple wall. So now they've got themselves an avenue in towards the site. Do they know about Zonky tucked in this corner? Well, they definitely do now, as he'll start to pop some shots over towards the Blackbeard. He'll do some good damage, and the Maestro as well will help to fight with that, but Ions will actually punish Zonky for over-aggressing in that spot, and now it's a two-man advantage to work with for the Unks with about 40 seconds left to play. Dami has to go big here. Trevmac as well can be potentially very influential in this round, playing on the Maestro, but he's going to have to keep himself alive for that potential impact to actually come to fruition. Less than 30 seconds to go. 5v2 now. Things are getting worse here for Turtle Tactics. Trevmac sprays with the smoke and gets one. Looking for more here as the smoke starts to expire. Spots the head of the ace, lands that. That's the diffuser down, but now it's all left up to Spider against three fully healthy members of the Unks. He'll have to work against the Blackbeard first. Maybe a second one behind him. Gets the shot on a Spider, but Ions knocks him on his backside, and he'll knock the Unks back into the lead as they claim series point.
A phenomenal round from the Unks to understand their positioning, what map control they had, and how they could specifically use it. Understanding that they only had IT and control of Raptors. They didn't have anything over by Connector or E-Box. And eventually they did go for a take over by Top Water. You saw that two players, one of them being that Ella holding it, they were able to win those gunfights, get that control, and continue to just crush the defense into a smaller box on that bomb site. Eventually, a really good play there from Trevmac. He got one through the smoke, and eventually somebody got him through the smoke. But again, after you lost not only that first engagement, but then that second player over inside of control, it was just a game that you were not going to be able to play. You were not going to be able to play those trades because the Unks were always going to have that favor, and especially once they lost water. It was all done from there.
Is overtime on the cards, Goose? That's the question we have to answer ourselves now. If I remember correctly, Turtle Tactics get the defense for overtime, so if we get there, they'll definitely be in the advantage heading into that portion and potentially looking to send us to that third map. We got to get through round 12 first before that can actually happen. We're down to the what is considered the tertiary site. We're at storage here for this crucial round. We've got two shotguns available. Those M59s are going to be so deadly. They're going to need to stay alive for that late round to potentially punish any potential executes, especially considering there is that, there is that Ying. There is also the Nook on the board as well. We've seen the Youngs do this before. They like to go for these lurk plays. The last time it happened, it didn't go so well, but this round, you've got the Dokkaebi to pair with it, so I have to think that there's going to be a lot more potential for success, especially considering that you can have Zolaris cause a lot of chaos, which will open up even more potential possibilities for Bless to get active.
Yeah, I really like this Ying play. It just allows you to comfortably push out players if you're able to drone them if they do stay in that position. It's just kind of one of those really difficult operators. You don't have anybody to necessarily deal with it. No Warden, no nothing to deal with it. No Wamais, Jaegers, nothing. Zolaris is going to be able to run free in this round if he's able to place his utility effectively, but they still got to worry about this top floor. Nami being the very first point of interest for the Turtle Tactics. Dead's going to be the very first engagement. It just comes down to how they play it.
Ooh, big first kill there for Dami. Takes Dead off the board. That is Blackbeard, your top fragger, now gone. That is a huge loss for the Unks, but it's traded right back quickly by Ions. Zolaris gets active as well, takes down Spider. It's suddenly a round that looked great for Turtle Tactics starting off is looking even better for the Unks as it's down to the final three members. Does he know about the Nook about to swing in? He does not. Bless is able to shut down Trevmac. Now there's only two members of Turtle Tactics remaining in this series. Millie on low HP will send out a C4, and that'll claim Zolaris. That's the case down as well. Zonky looking to get active as well. Does damage to two more of these players sitting over on the top of Aqua, but they know he's here. They've isolated him. This is going to be a very hard situation to fight your way out of if you are Zonky on this Mira, and you need Millie to stall out as long as he can hold down on this bottom floor. And he's actually done a pretty good job of it thus far. And that means that we've been able to really slow things down for a second here and shift our way back down to the site. Zonky gets active, but loses most of his HP to Bless in the process. Does he know about the player in the hallway? He does not. It's all up to the Mira, who gets one, but will need two more kills to save this series for Turtle Tactics. Two fully healthy members of the Unks remain, but only 20 seconds left to work with. This is not out of the question here for Zonky if he plays it passively enough. Almost loses his life to the Thermite. Some damage done to engage, but the smokes will now cover the potential cross for the plant. Zonky, you need to go, my friend. You need to get active. Where is the coverage from Bless? Is it good enough? For the moment, it looks as though it is. He's just flailing, looking around the site. He finds the kill, gets another one. It's down to the last member, but he can't win it out. Bless wins the engagement, wins the game-saving 1v1, and the Unks will pick up the full 4 points and secure their first win in the finale.
Wow, just a game won by centimeters on that crosshair placement. If Zonky just played inside of bottom storage, or if he just had that pre-fire a little bit earlier, we could have been in overtime now. But I mean, that is really a summary of this entire matchup and just how Turtle Tactics have fallen short based off just small mistakes, whether it be real big mistakes as a team or individual players just not hitting the mark when they need to. Yunks, they will not go down flawlessly. They will be able to get those 4 points. They will be able to get the 2-0, no longer going and losing 0-2. Turtle Tactics, they, though, will fall down 0-2 and still have a point from their map 1 in their last series.
Yeah, the good news is they still do have that point to work with, like you said, but there is a lot that you need to work on if you are Turtle Tactics. You need to go back to the drawing board, particularly those attacks. Just in general, I would have to say the attacks throughout this series were less than ideal. They were very much subpar from what we would expect out of a team, especially a team that's coached by men. There's a lot of work that they need to go back, and they need to get into those VOD reviews like you were talking about, and really work on the pacing. I think the pacing of their attacks is the biggest problem that they have right now, because there was so many times where they were on such low time, where they were trying to just push in, and there was so much stall utilities set up. There were Goyos, there were Tachankas, smokes just littered throughout the map that made it nigh impossible for them to win those late round attacks. Yet, there is still a lot of good to take away. There is a lot of individual fragging power on both of these teams, and there is a lot that they could potentially look to build off of going forward.
Yeah, I talked about how there was an issue with how both of these teams play systematically, the style of siege they play. The Unks playing a lot more aggressive in relying on individual plays, while Turtle Tactics, they all want to be on the same page. They want to have just one simple end goal that doesn't just fall down to one player going huge. Eventually, at the end of the day, the Unks, that play style, rock, paper, scissors, they had rock, and sadly, Turtle Tactics had scissors. And I think this is a really good matchup for them to learn a lot of mistakes, because there were a lot of consistent mistakes made over and over and over, even mistakes from map 1 going on to map 2 that I think you can go back in this VOD and say that we need to stop doing this, especially on those attacks like you spoke about before.
Hey, if there's another thing you could take away, it's the fact that the Unks look like they might be getting back into their Challenger Series selves, especially on that Nighthaven map. You saw the individual fragging potential of a lot of those players. Dead, Bless, Engaged, coming to life, finding those massive early round kills. They were doing great in those early round engagements, spawn peeking, getting aggressive, getting in the map quickly, playing off with Blackbeard, and just in general, it seemed as though a lot of the coordination was back to a level that we would expect of a team of this caliber.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for both of these teams, especially the format that we have. It's not like Turtle Tactics are out. We even saw the Unks go down 0-2, come out, showed out perfectly today, and obviously talked about their support staff. Like they have a lot. They only have been doing all the hard work. But again, I think this is still a potential for them to continue to go on strong, but they do have to start winning games, because you don't want to go 0-3 and lose consistently more.
Well, Goose, that is all for Playday number 4 here in the finale. I believe we are back on Wednesday with our next Playday, Playday number 5. Of course, the XGS stream already ended. Soar 2-0 their opponent, the Freezer, so we are done for the day. But on behalf of everybody hardworking behind the scenes, my name is Nomical. That was Goose. We hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time.